We've had a lot of conversations about fathers and mothers who are inappropriate with daughters. I think one of the things that we need to explore and have another conversation about is fathers who are inappropriate with their sons. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist, and I wanted to have a conversation about how fathers can be just as inappropriate, if not more so inappropriate, with their sons. And by saying fathers, I'm including biological stepfathers and also, stand-ins. So, maybe, boyfriends or partners that are living with the family. There's a video that went viral, unfortunately, for the wrong reasons. I want to say it was last week, where a woman was video recording her husband and her son, and her husband had gotten in the bed with her son and appeared to be doing something highly sexually inappropriate. And she's laughing and she's not catching on, but it took the internet by storm because of what he was whispering to his son under the covers in the bed, and you could hear it. And she came out and made another video defending and saying that, the internet was wild and blah, blah, blah. This is also not uncommon, by the way, having a parent who sees something, who is blind and chooses to look the other way when the world is telling her, hey, listen, that is not appropriate. And it's literally going on right in front of her face. And this is something that happens all the time when it comes to fathers and sons. And fathers can be sexually aggressive. And trigger warning, by the way, I should have said that. I'm sorry. Fathers can be sexually predatory towards their sons just as much as they are towards their daughters by making comments, by attempting to look at their sons' bodies and things like that. And a lot of times they're going to do it under the guise of discipline, physical discipline. So they may say something like, go upstairs and take up all your clothes and I'm going to beat you with this belt. Or, you need to remove your pants, that kind of stuff, and make it, put it under the guise of physical discipline, but really is a chance for him to get to ogle at your private parts. And a lot of times, fathers who do that will also start to make inappropriate comments about their son's private parts, try to emasculate them, hit them on their private parts, and attack, kick, and all these other sorts of things where they berate their boys, or they call their boys, they may call their sons sissies, or insinuate that their son is a little bit more feminine, or just because he can't fight back, or he's not as masculine, or imply that there's some sort of underlying homosexual tendencies or something like that, in an effort to emasculate and shame their son. But really what they're doing is projecting onto their son. They can also become physically aggressive under play fighting or horseplay. This is very common in prison. I hated horseplay, and that nothing would make me more upset with inmates and horseplay, because horseplay can, that can go from 0 to 100 real quick. You know, that could be like this aggressive, like wrestling, hitting, and, all of this other kind of stuff, where that also can inadvertently allow them to fondle and size you up and feel on you and, cause an erection, all kinds of stuff, but it can be explained away. That's how they're looking at it. They can explain it away. Other ways as fathers can aggress upon their sons is by making their sons feel like, well, you're a man, but you're living under my roof. So you are now physically and monetarily indebted to me. So how do you want to, you're going to need to pay that back. So I'm going to need for you to run it to me in this way or that way, in a way that's sexually inappropriate or that's soliciting, things under the guise of labor, due to being in debt. And there's nothing that you could ever do to repay that debt because he's always moving the goalposts. But you're a man, but because he's taking care of another man, which he doesn't do, you're now going to have to take care of him in some way. Other ways in which fathers can be emotionally and psychologically abusive towards their sons is by viewing their sons as like a threat, as it pertains to the mother or the other parental figure. And so they become jealous, if you will, of their sons or the attention that the other parental figure gives to their sons. And so they quickly try to remove access. That could be anything from blocking you out of the house, to beating you for it, or beating the other parent. That it could be any number of ways in which they could try to sabotage the connection, and distancing you. Fathers can also, and I know I've spoken about this before, can become competitive with their sons when their sons have girlfriends or wives, or partnered. And then they start to become flirtatious or speak inappropriately to the son's girlfriend, partner, or wife. And, you need a real man. He's not a real man. I'm a real man. I could show you, I could do more for you than he can. Attempting to flirt or even have make sexual advances towards, and sometimes it's successful with girlfriends or partners or wives, but it's also another attempt to undermine and emasculate you and compete with you for access to women and other resources. Fathers can become very competitive when it comes to resources. They definitely take the resources that you've earned away from you. So if you've worked a job, they may take your money and say, well, you need to pay, that you're a man now. So now that you've got this job, you need to turn over your money and pay for groceries and rent and things of that nature. In fact, I have a post, a commenter sent me a letter. He's a man, that's asking about this. So I'll be talking about this a little bit more. But anyhow, you need to pay up. So now give me all your check. They don't allow you to have access to your car, or they want to restrict access, or they want to take it and drive it, or even worse, take your stuff and give it away to somebody else right in front of you. Any sense of freedom that you have, you may try to sabotage that. So let's take the example of a job. Of course you need transportation, or you need to get back and forth to a job. Now that you've gotten it, well, I don't know how you're going to get there. Even if you got your car, they're going to try to, take access away from a car or things that you paid for. They're going to make it really difficult for you to succeed, because they're threatened by the possibility of you becoming a man, a better man, albeit, than they are. So I just wanted to take some time out to talk about it. Again, this isn't comprehensive, but it's just something that I wanted to talk about. And I always get comments from men, what about this? What about that? And lastly, I think another way that fathers sabotage their sons is by making them the man of the house. So that means that the dad can be an irresponsible adult, financially irresponsible, come and go as he pleases, doesn't provide, doesn't protect, uses drugs or other substances, but expects their son to be the man, meaning that the son must pay for the rent or the mortgage and all the bills and be the leader that takes care of the mom and sisters and other brothers and stuff like that. So they're forcing fatherhood on their sons way too early. So anyhow, hope that helps. Thanks so much. You guys take care.